The fluorescent lights of Atlanta Memorial Hospital flickered slightly as Dr. Sarah Mitchell walked down the corridor toward the delivery room. It was 3 in the morning on a cold February night, and she had just received the call that would change everything. Jessica Williams, a 28-year-old black woman who had been under her care for the past 7 months, was going into labor. But this wasn't just any delivery. The ultrasounds had revealed something that only happened once in every 200,000 births. Jessica was about to give birth to conjoined twins. When Jessica first learned she was pregnant, she and her husband Marcus had been overjoyed. After 3 years of trying, this was their miracle baby. They had painted the nursery a soft yellow, assembled a crib with shaking hands and tears of happiness, and picked out names. For a boy, they chose Isaiah. For a girl, Harmony. They dreamed of first steps and first words, of birthday parties and scraped knees and goodnight kisses. The 20-week ultrasound changed everything. Jessica remembered lying on the exam table, the cold gel on her belly, watching Dr. Mitchell's face change as she moved the wand across her stomach. The doctor had gone quiet, her eyes fixed on the screen. She had called in another doctor, then another. Jessica's hand had found Marcus's, their fingers intertwining so tightly it hurt. "I need you both to take a deep breath," Dr. Mitchell had said, turning the monitor toward them. "You're having twins, but they're connected, conjoined twins." The room had spun. Marcus had actually stumbled backward, catching himself on the wall. Jessica had stared at the screen, trying to make sense of the images. 2 heads, 4 arms. But their bodies merged somewhere in the middle. Her babies, her precious babies, were fused together. Over the following months, Jessica and Marcus had been thrust into a world they never knew existed. Medical terms like thoracopagus and shared organs became part of their daily vocabulary. They learned that their daughters, yes, 2 girls, were joined at the chest, sharing a liver and part of their cardiovascular system. They met with pediatric surgeons, cardiologists, and ethics counselors. Some doctors were optimistic. Others were grave, speaking in quiet tones about quality of life and difficult decisions. But through it all, Jessica felt her babies move. She felt them kick and turn, felt their hiccups and their sleep cycles. They were alive. They were hers. And she would fight for them with everything she had. The night Jessica went into labor, she wasn't scared. She had passed through fear, months, ego, and come out. The other side into something else, something harder and clearer. As the contractions came stronger and faster, Marcus held her hand and whispered prayers. The delivery room was crowded with specialists, each one there for a specific purpose. 2 neonatal teams, multiple surgeons, nurses moving with practiced efficiency. When Harmony and Hope, they had added the second name later, when they knew there would be 2, finally entered the world, the room fell silent for just a moment. Jessica heard one tiny cry, then another, slightly different in pitch. Her daughters were crying, breathing, living. She craned her neck to see them, but the medical team had already swept them away to the warming tables. "Are they okay?" she called out, her voice hoarse. "Please, are my babies okay?" Dr. Mitchell appeared at her side, mask pulled down, eyes kind but tired. "They're breathing on their own. That's a very good sign. They're stable for now." For now. Those 2 words would haunt Jessica for months to come. Harmony and Hope spent their first weeks of life in the neonatal intensive care unit, surrounded by machines and wires and the constant beeping of monitors. Jessica practically lived there, leaving only when Marcus forced her to go home and shower. She sat beside their incubator for hours, her hands reaching through the ports to touch their impossibly small fingers, their soft skin, the place where their bodies became one. They were beautiful. People didn't expect her to say that, but they were. Harmony had a birthmark on her left cheek, a tiny strawberry that Jessica kissed 100 times a day. Hope had more hair, dark curls that stuck up in every direction. They looked at each other, even as newborns, their eyes finding each other's faces with an intensity that made Jessica's heart ache. The question everyone wanted to ask, but only a few actually did, was whether the twins would be separated. The lead surgeon, Dr. Patel, a man with steady hands and 20 years of experience, had laid out the options with careful honesty. Separation surgery was possible, but extraordinarily risky. The girls shared significant portions of their liver and had complex vascular connections. There was a real possibility that one or both could die during the procedure. There was also the possibility that even if they survived, they might face lifelong complications. But leaving them conjoined meant its own challenges. Mobility would be difficult. They would never have independent lives. Every decision, every movement, every moment would be shared. Some conjoined twins lived long, fulfilling lives without separation. Others struggled deeply. Jessica and Marcus sat in counseling sessions, in conference rooms with windows that looked out over the city, and wrestled with a choice no parent should have to make. Do you risk losing both daughters to give them a chance at separate lives? Or do you keep them safe as they are, accepting the limitations that come with it? It was Hope who made the decision for them. At 6 weeks old, she developed a severe infection. Her tiny body was fighting, but the infection was spreading. And because of their shared bloodstream, Harmony was at risk too. Dr. Patel came to them in the middle of the night. "We need to operate," he said. "If we separate them, we can treat Hope more aggressively without risking Harmony. It's not ideal timing. We wanted to wait until they were bigger, stronger. But we're out of time." Jessica felt like she was falling. Marcus caught her, his arms strong around her shoulders. Through tears, through terror, they signed the consent forms. The surgery took 14 hours. Jessica and Marcus sat in the waiting room with their families around them. Jessica's mother prayed aloud, her voice a constant murmur of faith and desperation. Marcus's brother brought coffee that no one drank. Time moved strangely, each minute an hour, each hour a lifetime. When Dr. Patel finally emerged, still in his surgical scrubs, his face was impossible to read. Jessica stood up so fast she nearly fell. Marcus was beside her, his hand gripping hers. "They're alive," Dr. Patel said, and Jessica's knees buckled. "They're both alive." The surgery went as well as we could have hoped. We were able to divide the shared liver successfully. The vascular connections were complex, but we managed them. They're in critical condition, but they're stable. Jessica sobbed into Marcus's chest. Her babies were alive. They were separate. They were two individuals now, no longer joined but still sisters, still connected in ways that went beyond flesh and blood. The recovery was long and painful. Harmony bounced back faster, her little body healing with the resilience that babies possess. But Hope struggled. The infection had taken its toll. She needed multiple follow-up surgeries. There were setbacks and scary nights when alarms went off and nurses came running. But slowly, impossibly, both girls grew stronger. At 3 months post-surgery, they were finally released from the hospital. Jessica carried Harmony while Marcus carried Hope. And they walked out those hospital doors into the bright Georgia sunshine with tears streaming down their faces. The girls were 9 months old now, and the nursery that Jessica and Marcus had painted yellow was filled with 2 cribs, 2 changing tables, and toys scattered across the floor. Harmony was crawling, getting into everything, pulling herself up on furniture. Hope was a bit behind developmentally, but her physical therapist was optimistic. She could roll over, could sit with support, and her smile could light up an entire room. The scars on their chests were healing, thin pink lines that would fade with time. But the bond between them remained as strong as when they shared one body. They cried when separated for too long. They reached for each other in their sleep. When Harmony learned to clap, she crawled to Hope and took her sister's hands, teaching her the motion with infinite patience. Jessica often thought about those first terrible moments when she learned her babies were conjoined. She remembered the fear, the grief, the sense that her world had ended. But looking at her daughters now, watching Hope giggle as Harmony tickled her, seeing them look at each other with pure love, she understood something profound. Her daughters had never been a tragedy. They had been a miracle all along. They had fought their way into this world together, had survived impossible odds, had been given a second chance at life. They were warriors. They were survivors, and they were hers. On their first birthday, Jessica and Marcus threw a party in their backyard. Friends and family came, many of them people who had been there through the darkest days. The medical team came too, Dr. Mitchell and Dr. Patel and nurses, who had cared for the girls when they weighed just a few pounds. As everyone sang happy birthday, and the girls smashed their matching pink cakes with gleeful abandon, Jessica looked at Marcus. He was crying, not tears of sadness, but of overwhelming joy. She understood. Against every odd, despite every obstacle, their family was whole. Different than they imagined, marked by scars and struggles, but whole and beautiful and more precious than anything else in the world. That night, after everyone had gone home and the girls were asleep in their cribs, Jessica stood in the doorway of the nursery. She watched their small chests rise and fall, listened to their soft breathing, and whispered a prayer of gratitude for the doctors who fought for them, for the medical miracles that made separation possible, for her own strength and Marcus's love, and most of all, for Harmony and Hope themselves. Two extraordinary souls who had already overcome more in their first year than most people face in a lifetime. The journey wasn't over. There would be more surgeries, more therapies, more challenges ahead, but they would face them together, as a family, because that's what love does. It shows up, it fights, it never ever gives up. If this story touched your heart, if you felt the weight of Jessica and Marcus's journey, if you found yourself rooting for Harmony and Hope, then this video was made for you. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because we share incredible true stories of courage, survival, and the unbreakable human spirit every single week. Stories that remind us what we're capable of when we refuse to give up. Drop a comment and let us know what you thought about this amazing family's journey. And don't forget to hit that like button to help us share these important stories with more people who need to hear them. Remember, every story we share is a testament to the strength of the human heart. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.